Hi everyone, so today I'm going to be talking about how I colour water drops. I chose this image because it's got a black background, so it makes it a lot easier to see what's actually happening when you have a water drop. You can download the line art for free from www.getsetcraft.com. I've also decided to do this initial drawing on Neenah Desert Storm paper because then you can see what's happening a lot easier. So if I was just to do it on white, you wouldn't really be able to see where I'm putting the highlights. So first tip I've got to tell you is do your background. So your background is what's then going to be changed in the image in your water drop. So here I am, I'm just putting in some of the background colours. Decided just to keep it quite blurry and loose because then it's a lot easier to be able to deal with that in the water drops. But if you had a more clearer image in the background, that's fine, you just have to be a bit clearer in your water drops. Just as a side note, I've really been getting into using this Desert Storm Neenah marker paper recently. I think it is absolutely wonderful. You can still see the colours really well. They show it really nicely. When you first lay down your colours, they do look a bit dark, but that's because the ink is still wet, and as it dries it just gets lighter and lighter. But it works in exactly the same way as any other marker cardstock, so your blending and all of that works beautifully, but it just gives your pictures a little bit of added interest. It's really nice. And then if you're wanting to go back in again and have some white spots, you can obviously use white pencil crayons, which I've done, and also white acrylic markers or just some white paint. So this video I've sped up by ×2. So you see me colouring, it's at twice the speed. So my brush strokes are actually much slower than what you're actually seeing, and that helps add the ink in a nice smooth way. You'll also notice that I'm using different colours from different colour families in this a lot. They merge together lovely. The only one that I've actually used a traditional three-way blend is the AG, the Alpine Greens, for the leaf blade, but all of the others I'm actually blending between different colour families. So the alcohol pen colours in Spectrum Noir that I'm using today are AG1, AG3 and AG5 for the three-way colour blend for the blade of the leaf. And then I'm also using on the flower and in the refractions LV2, PL1, TB4, OR3 and CT4. I'm also going to be using a white acrylic pen or a white gel pen, and also some black watercolour paint, or you can use black acrylic paint at the end as well. So if you want to go and grab those, and or the equivalents of them, something that's similar to them, print out the image and colour along with me. That'd be great. So the things I want you to actually note when I'm colouring in the the water drops is what water actually does. So as an ex-science teacher, I can get quite technical with it, but I don't want to. I just want to try and get it nice and simple for you. But basically, a water droplet changes the image. So the image, the light that's going into the water is actually bounced around and comes out at a different angle. So that's what makes the image look different. And in a water droplet, what happens is it turns the image upside down and also back to front. So anything that's below the water drop will be shown at the top of the water drop, and anything above will be shown at the bottom. And also anything on the right will be shown on the left, and anything on the left will be shown on the right. So that's the first thing that you need to think about. The other thing that you need to think about is actually, because it's a spherical shape, it's actually going to bend the image. It's going to make it more spread out in the middle and more condensed at the edges. Okay, so what I'm doing here, you can see, is I'm just making sure that I've got my nice blend on my leaf blade. So here's the three-way blend in action. So I go in with my lightest AG1, and then I go in with my AG3 to put in where I'm wanting it to be a little bit darker. Then I'm going to go in with my AG5 and make even darker parts. And then what you do is then go back over again with your AG1 just to blend that in, so you haven't got the harsh distinctive lines. If you're interested in the different ways that you can use alcohol colours for blending, then take a look in my YouTube channel. I've got loads of videos about that. So here you can see what I'm doing is I'm making sure that my water drops are actually casting a shadow onto the leaf as well. This is something that some people miss out. Because a water drop is an actual object, yes, it's see-through, but it's still going to cast a shadow. So make sure that your shadow is showing. It won't be as pronounced as obviously an opaque object, but it's still going to be there. So I've put the guidelines in for you for turning this image upside down, back to front, and spreading and condensing the image in the water drops. So we're going to do the large one first. So the one thing I did find about using the Neenah paper is because the wet ink goes on quite dark, you can't really tell if you've got a nice smoothly blended image for your darker shades as well. So that's not a problem. Just get yourself a nice even coverage that you think is okay, let it dry like I have, and then just go over your images again to make that blend a lot more smooth. But then I decided to use this to my advantage. At the bottom here you can see what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to leave some of it in that unshaded way, can you see what I've done? And when you're added another layer on, you're actually making it just that little bit darker. So I've actually got two tones, two shades, just from having one that was one layer of ink and one that was two layers of ink. Okay, so you can see what I'm doing now is anything that's at the top above the water droplet, I'm now flipping that round and putting that down the center and down to the bottom of the water droplet. So I'm drawing the image but back to front, so anything that's on the left side is put onto the right, and anything that's on the right side is put onto the left. And you don't have to be totally accurate with it. If it's nice and loose, that's fine. I'm not photorealistic. Just another note, anything that I've left is either going to end up white in the end or black in the end, so I'm going to go back over it with a white acrylic marker and also my black ink pen and my watercolor black aqua tint I'm going to use for the background. It's just so you can easily see where I put my highlights before I start to add the black. So here I'm starting to look at the stuff that's beneath the water drop, and I'm putting that into place at the top. So even though it's sitting on a blade of grass, you're still going to be able to see the image of the stuff that's behind it and underneath it. If it was sat on a table, maybe not so much. Actually, no, you would. You'd still get a reflection of what you couldn't see from images that are behind the water droplet. So now I'm looking at the leaf blade directly, and that gets refracted right to the top, and that's in the curve right across the top of the water drop. And also you're going to have a bit from the left hand side and a bit from the right hand side of the water drop as well. You can see this in the image that I've put at the top, the one that I'm kind of using as a bit of a reference. Now the other thing about water drops is what I was saying about the image being spread out in the middle and condensed at the edges. Well, that also relates to the light, the amount of light that's going through it as well. So the outside edges, because you're condensing that image, it's actually going to appear darker than the middle of your water drop. So you have to make sure that the edges of your water drop have a bit of a darker shade to them. And I also like to go around sometimes with an actual black, just to really make that shade, that condensing of the light really show. Okay, so now we're starting to add on just the structure of the water droplets. So we're adding a little bit of a blue tinge, blue lines, because water, even though it doesn't look it, is actually blue. It's a very, very, very pale shade of blue. And so around the edges you will get that condensing of that colour, and so you can get some blue lines shown in the curves around the edges. So I'm just putting that in there, and now I'm going in with my acrylic Posca pen. So this is a key thing for water droplets. If you want water droplets to look as if they're wet and they are glistening as they do, you need to have a really good white, and that white is actually showing the reflection of light coming off it. So it's not the light that's going through the water droplet, this is the light which is bouncing off the surface, and that appears white, and it is shown mainly in little blobs or crescent shapes. Okay, so I'm just putting in a little bit of white for where there's some white in the I'm going to put white in the flower later as well, but most of this white is the highlights of the glistening water droplet. Now you can use white gel pens, you can use white pencil crayons. I like white Posca pens, they're a nice acrylic paint, but all of those will work fine. So you can see that the principle of what I'm doing in this large water droplet works with the smaller droplets to the side. You can see I haven't actually put any image detail inside them. I've just made sure that I've got the darker edges, I've got the white highlights, and I've given it a little bit of a shadow, and they're usually instantly recognizable as a water droplet. Okay, so what I did here was I decided that actually the white that's in the flowers at the back wouldn't show as well on this image with the highlights with this Desert Storm paper. So I've decided to turn the whites in the flowers a little bit more yellowy, so that you can tell the difference between that white and the white of the highlights of the water droplet. So here I'm going around with the black, using the bullet nib here instead of the brush nib, just to get a nice definition, and I'm just going around the edges, not a complete line all the way around. I don't want to completely edge it, but just suggesting that edge. So leave a few gaps in there if you need to, and then you can also go back with your white highlight and put a line of reflection as well. Here we go. You can see how that's just made a difference, just that little line. So we're going to have a look at the smaller one now, nice and quickly. So there I am, I'm just colouring in the outside, the top part of the water drop. Now I left the side of this water drop blank on purpose because it's actually goes light to dark, and I wasn't sure if I was going to put the black background in. So I've done it like this so that if you decide you don't want a black background, you're not going to have that harsh black line on that side, so you can have that lighter shade, if you can see in the drawing, in the photograph at the top. And because this water droplet is smaller than the other, it actually shows more of the blade of the leaf because it's closer to it, if you understand. So it gets a little complicated sometimes, but we can get there. And so the blade of the glass actually comes all the way to halfway down the water droplet in this case. And to break that up, you just put have some of the darker shades in there to just show the veining of that blade. Another tip, as you can see, I'm working from a reference. Work from reference photos. It's not cheating, it's what can we call it? It's definitely not cheating, it's learning. You are actually having a look and seeing how things are affected in real life, and that's what's going to make your images look more realistic and less flat. Okay, so now I'm putting in the flower. So the flower is on the other side of the image, so it's being refracted to this side of the water droplet. Very, very basic, you know. I'm only just putting in a few of the colours just to indicate that it's that flower is being refracted into this water droplet. There we go. And then on the other side we're going to put some of that nice blue shades to indicate the water. I'm thinking for this photograph there might have been actually a white board on the right hand side that's being refracted to the left hand side of it, but I don't know, it works well even if it just looks like a highlight. There we go. So with this water droplet, what I've decided to do is to go around more with the white. It looks as if the light is actually coming from that direction, and so you would get more of a reflection from that side, and so the opposite side of that is going to be a dark black. Oh, I love putting the highlights in. Makes it come to life. I just love it. So there we go. Now we're putting the shadows in, and this is also what gives it depth. So there we go. So what I've then decided to do is I am actually going to colour in the background black. I think it will make the image look better. So I've used my aquatints in black. They give a really nice coverage on this paper, and I'm going to put that wherever there is anything that's left. And like magic, there we go. So I've also gone in with just a little bit of the white acrylic pen. I've just watered that down a little bit and gone over the top in the background, just to make that a little bit broken up and blurry. So I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope it's helped. Please give us a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel to support me. Thanks a lot. Bye.